So what is a function? A function is simply a pre-built routine in Excel that you can use in formulas to help you solve problems. Functions can be as simple as the sum function, which helps us add up one or more numbers into a total cell. Functions can also be fairly complicated, like the payment function that helps you calculate the payment for a house or a car over a certain number of years. There's also functions that help you manipulate your data, things that will take cells and combine them together or split them apart to put them in several different cells. Now, Excel literally has hundreds of functions. It'd be very overwhelming and really not that beneficial to learn every function in Excel. A lot of them you're never even going to need. So what we're going to learn in this lesson is how to use the function builder. Now, this is kind of like a wizard. It's a tool to help you get in and learn about the functions, learn how they're constructed, and learn how they behave. And I can tell you, once you master this tool, you should be able to do any function in Excel with no problem. All right, well, let's get to it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. You should be on the Function Builder tab of the workbook. And we're going to start with some functions we're already familiar with, the sum and the average function. So let's go down and click in D9. And then there's going to be several different ways to get to this function builder, and we'll look at all of them. The first way we're going to look at is on the Formulas ribbon. All the way to the left is the Insert Function button. And we click that, and we get this dialog box that comes up that says Insert Function. Okay, now this first box is where you could search for a function name, and we'll see how to do that in a minute. The second one is a category selector. Right now it's showing everything, but you can narrow your functions down to different categories and look at them. And we'll see why that's important here in just a second. Let's go to Math and Trig. And now the third section shows all the functions in that category. And as you click on different functions, you see you get a definition of what the function is. Returns this one here, ACOTH, returns the inverse hyperbolic cotangent of a number. We're not going to be working on this function in this class. But you see, this is how you first get a feel of how to look at different functions and what they are. Let's go back up here because we want to look for the sum function. And I'm going to change my category to all and then look for sum. If I get rid of all this text here and hit go. And it came up there. There's several sum functions, but we're just going to start with just the sum function. And I'll double click that. And now look what you have here. You have the name of the function, and then it shows what it's expecting. This is just a number or a range of numbers. So what I'm going to do here is click in here, delete that. And then I'm going to go down, and when my mouse is in that box, I can come down and highlight what I want to put there. And this function builder will show you that's what I'm putting in there. And then if you have a result already, come down here and the formula result will be shown right here. So that's how you know your function's ready to go. Down in this section in the middle, it tells you what it does, adds up all the numbers in a range of cells. And then we're on number 1, that's the first argument or parameter. And it tells you what it needs. Number 1, number 2, etc. are 1 to 255 numbers to add up. Logical values in text are ignored in cells, included if typed as arguments. So we'll click OK, and that's how the function builder built our sum function. Let's do the same for average. So we'll go back up to the function builder, and we'll look for average. I'll go to all. And our average function comes up, double click it. And it tells us this returns the average arithmetic mean of its arguments, which can be numbers of names, arrays, or references that contain numbers. We're just going to stick to numbers here. And it's already selected what it thinks we want to do, B8 to D9. And actually that's not right. So we have to go back here, select it. And we got an answer here, 12.5, so we can click OK. All right, let's scroll down and let's try some different functions. Let's do a couple of text functions here. Now I've got some values in a cell here. It's like a product number from North Carolina, and then it's got the number to the right. What if I want to just get the 2 letters in that cell out? There's a function called left that we can use. So I'll click here, and I'm going to go to this tool to insert my function. It brings up the same box. And now I'm just going to type in the word left because I happen to know that function and look for that. And here we go, left, text, and number of characters. It returns a specified number of characters from the start of a text string. So I'll click OK. And then where's my text? I wanted to look at this right here. So it's got my text in there, and right now I don't have any characters, so it's just going to return an N. So I'm going to put 2 characters in there, and now it returns NC. Look what happens if I put 4. So you see it's very flexible. I'll just put in 2 and click OK, and that's how I pulled 2 characters out of that particular cell. Now let's look at this one. We've got a couple of cells that have text in them, and we want to combine them into one cell. So let's go in here, and the function's called concat. But let's see if we can just find it. Let's click the insert function, and instead of most recently used, we'll go down to text functions. And array to text, what does that say? Returns text representation of array. Doesn't sound good. What about clean? Removes all non-printable characters from text. What about concat? So concatenates a list or range of text strings. So concatenate just means to put together. So let's try that. Click that. And now it says concatenates a list of text or text strings. Text 1, text 2, and so on to be joined in a single text string. One thing to notice, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute. See how the top one is in bold and the bottom one is not bold? We'll talk about that in a minute, but I just want you to notice that. So let's put our text that we want to combine together. So I'm on the first text. I'll go and click on E20, and that says have, that's right. Now my second text, I'll do A. My third text, nice. And my fourth text, day. And click OK. Well, put it together, but there's no spaces in there. So how do we solve for that? So I'm going to build this function again, and this time we're going to put spaces in there. So I'll call it my insert function wizard. We'll go to concat, and we'll start building it. So the first text we'll put have, and then for the second one we'll just hit our space bar. The third one will be A, and then the fourth one will be space bar. Then nice. Oops, I forgot to click down here for nice. Put my space there. Nice. And then put a space, and then day, and hit OK. That looks a little better. Have a nice day is all separated out. All right, well now let's scroll down and let's do a little bit more complicated function. This is the payment function, PMT. And what we're going to end up having here, I've kind of prepared this little grid, but what we'll have here is a way if you want to buy a house or a car or something. So if I want to buy a car for $20,000 and 4% interest rate, my payment's going to be $368.33 a month. This payment function will do all that math for us. So I'll explain what all this is when we do our function wizard. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and delete out the answer, and now we'll go build that function. So go to my function wizard, and this one happens to be in the financial section. So I'll click financial, and then I will look for PM payment. PMT calculates the payment for a loan based on constant payments and a constant interest rate. So let's click OK here. Now we're getting a little bit more involved with our function wizard. So at the very top we have rate, and again, notice this. Notice how they're bold and these are not bold. We're going to learn what that is on this one. So for the rate, I happen to know the way this function works. So this is calculating the payment for a loan based on constant payments at a constant rate. Rate is the interest rate per period for the loan. For example, when our interest rate is 4%, what it's really asking us here is I want the interest rate per month if you're making monthly payments. So that's what I did in this grid. The rate column next to the regular rate is just the interest rate divided by 12. So I'll go on the rate and I will click on that rate. And then I go NPER. That's the total number of payments for the loan. So if I'm paying something for 5 years once a month, that's going to be 5 times 12 or 60. So my number of periods is right here. And then the last thing, the present value. How much am I buying? 20,000, 25, 50, whatever. It's the same as this right here. The price is the same either one. But just to kind of keep a consistent look and feel to this, I just copied the price from this column to this column. So I'll click that. And now notice what happened. We now have an answer. We filled in these three and we have an answer here, negative 368 and 33 cents. But we still have two more arguments that we could fill in. So anytime you're looking at the function wizard, the required arguments are in bold. You have to fill out the bolded ones for it to even work. And then anything that's not bold is optional. And that can change the way the function works, but they're not necessary. So let's click on this future value. What's that? Future value is the future value of or a cash balance you want to attain after the last payment is made. 0 if omitted. So what that's saying is I want to pay on my car for 5 years. At the end of that, I want to make a big payment of $1,000. So now that changed my payment a little bit. Now it's $383 instead of $366 because I'm going to pay $1,000 at the end. But without that, it still calculates. And then the type here is a logical payment at the beginning of the period or payment at the end of the period. So are you paying at the beginning when a cycle starts over like the 1st, or are you paying at the end of the month like the 31st? And that will have an impact of your payment as well. But we'll just keep those blank for now. And click OK. And now we have our payment. What's unusual about this? The payment is in parentheses, which is one way they designate negative numbers. And if you think about it, if you're borrowing money, then you have to pay it back. So that's what you're paying out of pocket. So that's why this ends up being a negative number. Okay? But now this tool is really good. I can put in whatever I want. I can say if I want a $50,000 car, then that's going to be $920 a month. Or we could get into houses. What if I want a $400,000 house? And my interest rate is now, with interest rates, it's 6%. Whoa, $7,000 a month? What's wrong? Well, what's wrong is I still have the term of 5 years, like I was buying a car. So if I switch this back to like 30, now I'm looking at that. So okay, 400,000, 6%, that's $2,400 a month. I will have to just say that this doesn't include like taxes and escrow. This is just principal and interest. But anyway, the whole point of this is now we have a couple good examples on how to use this function builder. And we're going to continue to use this throughout the course. But now this is where you go to learn how to do new functions in Excel. Now the final thing we'll show you in the function builder is the help. So let's go ahead and click on our formula and click the function builder one more time. And if most of the function builder won't help you figure out the function you're working with, you can always go to help right here, which is going to bring up a much more detailed help in your web browser. They'll have a lot more details, describe it more in depth, and even give you some examples of how to use the function. And with that, we're ready to go to the next lesson.